If you've ever bolted on a brand new carburetor and it ran like garbage, well, this is why. Most aftermarket carburetors are not ready to run right out of the box. I don't care what anybody on the internet says. If they ran it out of the box and it started and ran, they were just lazy and accepted it the way it was. If you skip these steps, you're going to fight it forever. Hard starting, stalling, bogging, fouled plugs, not running right, not driving correctly. It's going to fight you the entire way. And everybody blames the carburetor. But 90% of the time, the carburetor isn't the problem. So before you bolt this thing on, no matter what flavor you're going to choose, I'm going to give you a list of 7 things that you need to do before you bolt these carburetors on to make sure that they run right for your application. Let's go. We've seen the 1406 before, but I had someone send me a brand new 650 that they ordered that they wanted to have gone through before they run it and make sure that it's up to standard before they put it on a car and figure out that there was something wrong with it. So literally this is right out of the box, never been touched, and we're going to get a good look at it and start looking and see what we can do to make this run right for their application. There's some things to keep in mind right off the bat here. This is not a quality control check for either one of these brands, although I will tell you that it is always a really good idea to give the carburetor a good once over. If it's an Edelbrock, take the air horn assembly off, verify everything's there, tight, all the pieces and components are there, you just never know. The Holley side, well, I'm not going to get into it. I've heard plenty of horror stories on the internet of folks having trouble with Holley carburetors and the quality control, that it makes it even more incumbent on you to check this right out of the box before you slam it on an engine and expect it to operate perfectly. So here are the 7 things that you need to check and adjust on each one of these carburetors before you ever start it. So let's get into the first one. Some of you hopefully know what we're going to talk about right out of the bat, and that is ignition timing. Boy, that is the number one thing I get over and over and over and over again from folks who are having all these carburetor problems, surging, not running right, no power, whatever the case may be. It always starts with ignition timing. If you do not get this right, I do not care what you do to the carburetor, you're going to fail every single time. We've talked about this before. If you're following the factory settings, this is a 1971 truck. If you're following those factory settings from 1971, you are not putting enough ignition timing into that engine for today's fuels. You need more timing. Now I'm down here around sea level. I start everything around 12 to 14 on the initial side, 32 to 36 all in. Really depends on what the engine likes, but that is a starting point. Can tell you where we're at on the GMC right now is at 16 degrees before top dead center on initial timing. Why? Because that's what it needs to make the most power, start right, drive, cruise, have enough power through all the ranges. Putting enough timing in is a huge part of this equation. Make sure all the components are working correctly. The mechanical advance in the distributor is working. The vacuum advance pod is working properly. And that also includes hooking it up correctly depending on the configuration of the engine. Talked about this 100 times, and it doesn't really matter what you think. If you're in the fan club that says, I always have to put this on full manual advance every single time, you are cheating the engine out of what it wants. Sometimes it is not the best choice. I am running this on ported timing on this engine because this cam profile doesn't need anything more aggressive than that, and having that timing come in as we advance through RPM range and load on the engine likes that timing to come in as it comes in. Plenty of initial timing. Let the vacuum advance work and the mechanical advance work together to give it what it needs. So when I tell you that most carburetor problems start with timing, it is absolutely factual. If you do not have enough timing in the engine, you're going to fight it all through the tuning process. Second thing is, and we've talked about this quite a bit, I've done quite a few videos on how to choose the right size CFM carburetor and what happens when you choose a CFM that is way too big for the application. You are not going to have a good time with it. So making sure you get the right size carburetor for the application is a huge, huge step. Again, timing and size, these things are things that are done long before you even start working with getting these set up initially and making sure that you're setting the engine up for success. If you get too big of a carburetor on there, you're going to run into all those issues we ran into that I showed in the other video. Lazy, poor signal, poor throttle response, difficulty getting through the RPM range. All of those things are very, very important. So check out that video I already did on that topic, and I think you're going to learn a lot there. Looks like Holley's back to wet flowing their carburetors again. That's a good sign. I know they stopped for quite a while, and it kind of made it a little bit more complicated. Here's the reason why. Again, this was fresh out of the box. I'd never opened it until you saw it. That gasket is certainly not... it's probably serviceable, but having those tears in it like that, we're going to have to replace that gasket. So again, right out of the box, not the best. I think, boy, if you look at it, that cut through there quite aggressively. I don't know if it's the carburetor that's... it's decent, but it's not like it's aggressive, and those weren't very super tight, so something there was having a problem, but you can tell it cut right through that gasket material. So already right off the bat, I know I need gaskets in this thing. Obviously, number 3 is setting the float level. We need to verify where we're at, so when we do the initial startup, we get it where we want to, and it isn't dumping a ton of fuel in there. This one looks like it's okay. It may be a touch too high, so I will lower it down a little bit. While you're here, it's a good idea to do a couple other things as well too. Check the hardware on the accelerator pump. Make sure it is tight. We're going to pop the metering block out here because I need to take a look at the power valve, verify the size, and we're going to go ahead and make a power valve change for this because I know what he's running on his car now, and I need to change from the 6.5 to an 8.5, and we're also going to verify the jet sizes before we do it. Again, I know it may seem kind of funky, but when these are mass produced and put together, these are just pulled jets right out of a container that have all of the same size in it, and they're very rarely checked. So just verifying you got the right jet size in there is the way to go. But initially, getting the float settings right is a huge part of this. And I know everybody says, well, it'll be good right out of the box. The problem with that is traveling through the country on a UPS truck, FedEx truck, doesn't matter what it is, these can bounce around and it can throw that adjustment off a little bit. And it's also not a bad idea just to verify that the needle and seat is working properly and all that. So pulling these off, especially on the Edelbrock carburetor, because it's something that you can't visually see with a sight window, and then you can adjust externally. Those are all internally adjusted, and you need to do that before you fire that up immediately. Fourth one might sound a little odd, but really it isn't when you think about it. And I always pull the idle mixture screws out for Edelbrock and the Holley both. Do two things. One, just to make sure that the tip isn't broken off, it didn't get any damage during assembly or anything like that. And it is a really good idea to blow some carburetor cleaner through there. Just a quick squirt. You don't have to do anything extravagant. You're just making sure that any manufacturing material chips from the CNC, because CNC work is typically done on these to make sure that the ports are drilled and all that. The Edelbrock carburetor, you've seen video of that from my visits to the production facility there in North Carolina. So just a quick squirt is not a bad idea, just to make sure that all the things are blown out of there. Then, once you're done with that, set the idle mixture screws to where they need to be. On an Edelbrock carburetor, it's typically a turn and a half, and the Holley's not much different than that. It's a good starting point. If it is a four-corner idle, like on this Holley, you can go a little bit less than that. Sometimes I'll start at about 3/4 of a turn out, but typically never more than a turn, just making sure that you get those kind of set properly and that you know what they're at. That way when you go to start adjusting it, you're not going, well, I don't know where I'm starting from. If you set these before you fire it up, you'll know where you're at as you go through the tuning process. Obviously, the fifth one is something that we've talked about before, certainly much more on the Edelbrock carburetor than we have on the 4150 or the Holley style carburetor, but that is initially setting the transfer slots. That's going to do two things for you. One, on the Holley, it's way more critical than it is on the Edelbrock for sure, and that's making sure that you've got a little bit of fuel flow already going through the transfer slot, so when you make that transition off idle into that initial power range from 1,000 to 2,500, that you're already flowing fuel at that point before the main metering circuit takes over and delivers the amount of fuel that you're going to need for the carburetor to make sure that it's cruising down through, making power through that range. Now the Edelbrock is far less sensitive to this, and that's why I did a video on setting the Edelbrock transfer slots and why I very rarely ever do that. I will use that by setting idle speed, and the transfer slots are where the transfer slots are. I don't worry about it. I don't look at them again. The only time I will come back to it is if we are having a trouble with that transition from idle to off idle at that very low RPM range, 1,000 to 2,500, if we're having any stumbles or any issues. But typically it's not the transfer slot that you can correct that with, it's with other things. This Holley is a really good example of that. As I pulled it out of the box, made sure the choke was fully open, this carburetor is certainly not squared on the transfer slots. Now that seems to be a pretty popular thing, and honestly it works really, really well for an initial adjustment. The transfer slots are fully covered. They are not exposed at all, and I would always start there on this type of carburetor. So in this case, we're going to have to open that up with the speed screw, get a little bit more idle speed into that thing, and that way you get the transfer slots squared, or 20 to 40 thousandths is typically the number if you're going to try to get a set of calipers down in there and measure it. But yeah, you typically want those a little bit exposed on the Holley. On this one, right out of the box, they're not. Number 6 is one we've talked about quite a bit, and obviously if you've been around this channel for quite a long time, you know that I'm a big fan of having a pressure regulator so you can make sure the carburetor's seeing exactly what you want, plus it's an adjustment point so you can give it what it wants instead of the pump delivering whatever it's going to deliver. So having a regulator, making sure that you're getting the pressure dialed in correctly for the type of carburetor. Holley's a little bit different, typically 4.5 to 5, up to the 7 PSI range is good for a Holley style carburetor, and the Edelbrock likes to live at that 4.5 to 6 PSI. Anything more than that is typically too much. Number 7's a fairly easy one, but again, it's one of those little details that most people overlook, and that's choke operation and throttle linkage operation. Making sure that you have the right connection for the carburetor to hook up to whatever it is you're working on, whether it's a factory cable, factory rod, whether you're using an aftermarket cable type setup, whatever it is, it's making sure that you get it set correctly. Now, I will tell you on these carburetors, one of my pet peeves with them, especially when I'm buying used ones, is on these 2 aftermarket style carburetors from Holley or Edelbrock, you should never need to drill anything. You should never need to drill your own holes. If you are, then you're using the wrong throttle adapter for the cable, for the rod, whatever it is. There's plenty of kits out there that are made so you don't have to do any drilling modification to those throttle brackets. So just a tip, if you're thinking about doing some drilling, the Edelbrock one, for whatever reason, I see more than the Holley, but I've seen it quite a bit on both, where folks will drill those holes out and put a massive bolt through there because that's the style that the carburetor use. Just adapt it to get the right get the right adapter on there so you're not having to modify the carburetor. It's unnecessary. Choke included is the same thing. Now, this is an electric choke carburetor. This is obviously a manual choke carburetor, but making sure the operation is correct, that the cam works on an electric choke one. It's just making sure that it's dialed in properly and you're at the initial setting the way the factory recommends it. I've seen these plenty of times over the years, especially on electric choke stuff, where maybe it wasn't installed correct, where the catch on the thermostatic spring on the inside isn't connected to the arm that goes to the actual operation of the choke. If that's not correct, I've seen that happen occasionally. Again, you're just verifying that what happened at the factory was set correctly, and then you're just making your adjustments. So when you get to where you need to be, it's set properly, needs to be where it is for the initial setup of it, and then you can dial through that and tune it as you need. Think of those 7 steps as just setting yourself up for success. If you don't do that, well, don't be surprised if you get failure. But 99 times out of 100, people just always blame the carburetor. Well, this one's just junk. It doesn't work right. Must have manufacturing defects. They just didn't assemble it right at the factory. I'm just going to buy a new one. Most of the time, almost 99% of the time, probably, all it is just initial setup to make sure that the carburetor is in the functioning order that it needs to be to work to get the thing initially started so you can begin the tuning process. So if you have any questions on this one, don't hesitate. Please leave them down below. I love answering them for you, especially if you got something that no one's asked before. That's always a cool thing because it helps me to think through what I need to help deliver to you guys. But yeah, not a complicated process, but you cannot just take a carburetor, an aftermarket carburetor, out of the box, bolt it on, and expect it to just be great right out of the box. We've covered that topic over and over again. There is no such thing as it ran good right out of the box. Please don't do that. Please don't cheat yourself that way. Please let the engine and the carburetor work together and all those systems function properly. Be smarter than that. So again, if you got any questions, leave them down below, and we will catch you guys on the next one. We'll see you.